everyone, and this is my review for WWE Monday Night Raw on May 21st, 2013. And I'll go off and starting to say, I liked the way they began the show with bringing out the ambulance and everything. Just because it kind of came out as a weird context, weird little context right at the beginning of the show, is like what's actually going on, and I like that was the lead-in into Ryback coming out there and announcing what the next match was going to be between him and John Cena with the ambulance match, and that was definitely a good way of doing it. Definitely a good way of doing that. All in all, there's only been a few ambulance matches back in the day. Most of them come off really hard hitting and really good in general. I mean, the ambulance is just there for the drive-off portion. But the matches themselves have usually been good in the end, so hopefully this will be another good one going into the next pay-per-view. Some of the really good matches of the night. Obviously I'll talk about the Sheamus one here in a moment, but Team Hell No and Kofi Kingston versus The Shield. Again, just a great match involving The Shield and Team Hell No there, and of course adding Kofi Kingston in there. Great time of... It was just another way of continuing the dominance of The Shield and showing how dominant they were. I'm glad to see that they allowed them to continue their dominance even after winning the titles. Usually something in that nature where where the group gets the titles, they start like falling apart really fast. It's good to see that they're going to continue on with the Shield's dominance here into the near future. A surprisingly good match was the Sheamus and Titus O'Neil match, and I just say surprisingly because you look at a match that's typically like that, and we had another match later on. A match that's usually made like that is nothing more than a squash match, but they actually gave time to Sheamus and Titus O'Neil and allowed Titus O'Neil to show off what he can do in the ring, and that was a surprisingly good match right there. Another really good match of the night was the Randy Orton Jack Swagger match. Of course, they made this the WWE app fan vote. Of course, everyone was going to vote for Randy Orton in the end, and it just led to a really good match between Jack Swagger and Randy Orton at that point. It does make you wonder how in the end is this going to be like the downfall of Jack Swagger moment? Is this going to be the way that they're going to eventually write him off into the sunset after everything that's been going down? So we'll see where they go with Jack Swagger here in the future, and of course where they go with Randy Orton, what will be his next feud as well. So a few things that I didn't really like tonight. The tag match with Chris Jericho and The Miz versus Wade Barrett and Fandango. Honestly, yeah, just the way they presented that match, it pretty much became that 2-on-1 handicap type deal. And honestly, I don't think they need, it's not a good way of getting over Fandango by having him just randomly dance in the middle of a tag match. They definitely need to, be putting him over by actually getting match victories and other him going over the superstars in some way, shape, or form. And of course, then he got chased off at the end, and then I don't think they're doing a very good job of putting over Fandango at this point. Now, I've not been a big fan of Fandango to begin with, so it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to me on that aspect, but my opinion is that they wanted to get him over. They need to be putting him over by getting victories, whether it be in tag matches, singles matches, other aspects like that. So that was one thing I really ended up not liking in the end. Another one that I ended up not really liking was the new Paul Heyman guy, and not the aspect of who they chose for the next Paul Heyman guy, just the aspect that he got buried pretty much really quick. For anyone that does know, the new Paul Heyman guy was basically Michael McGillicuddy or Joe Henning for people that do know, and they basically have changed his name, repackaged him, and gave him new music, which was pretty much the remix of his dad's old music for Mr. Perfect, and they called him Curtis Axel. Okay, I'm actually all right with it. I actually don't mind the choice for the next one because they at least chose a younger star, trying to give him a push in some way, shape, or form. The biggest problem I had was, he pretty much got buried in the promo really quickly by Triple H, and when they announced that they were going to have a match with him, you pretty much had that figuration that maybe they'll put over Curtis Axel in this aspect and, allow him to get the victory. But during the match, they went a different route altogether where, they made a backstage promo saying, the doctor's saying you probably shouldn't go out there, Triple H. Of course, Triple H was going to refuse, all that kind of aspect. And then, during the match, it seemed like they went the route of Triple H trying to fight off, injuries from the night before. He became very winded and everything in that aspect. And it made sense for considering, if you would consider the match from the night before, the way they made the match look. It was very hard hitting. He got hit with a sledgehammer. It would make sense for him to, have troubles during the match and maybe not have the match continue in the end. But, he basically buried Curtis Axel during the promo, and then you didn't really have a clear-cut match at the end of the show. So it really didn't come off all that well to start out with Curtis Axel. Hopefully they'll, they have Paul Heyman there as the mouthpiece, so it should get better from here, which hopefully it will. And I hope that, this being his first night doesn't, basically ruin his entire push going into the future. So we'll see where they actually go with that. Overall, I felt Raw was outside of those couple bad aspects to it, I felt Raw was, a pretty good show this week. And just, they set up a good few things there for the next pay-per-view, and they put on a decent show. Not a lot of storyline building here on the actual show. You had a little bit with Ryback and for the next John Cena one, and then of course him sending a message by throwing Zack Ryder into the ambulance later on in the show. Of course, you have the continuation of probably the Shield and Team Hell No, and maybe even Kofi Kingston in there. But overall, not too much in the terms of match or feud building and going into the next pay-per-view. But you had some really good matches on the show. It just had a few real down points to it. The Layla AJ match was kind of just there as well. Another surprising one that I didn't actually get to talk about earlier: Big E Langston and Alberto Del Rio. They put on a really good match as well. In there, it was actually surprising that considering Alberto Del Rio being the number one making Alberto Del Rio the number one contender, they actually put over Big E Langston versus having Alberto Del Rio go over him. So we'll see where they continue with the Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio feud. And yeah, that's pretty much my review for Raw this week. Like I said, it was a pretty good show outside of a few down points to it. And I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.